Hello, welcome to the Joel Fleischman Happy Hour Podcast. Welcome, guys.
Hello. Hello.
Episode number 68. Who do we all got here today?
Nick Whitty, class of 2010.
Steve Boucher, class of 2011. I'm Casey Simon, class of 2012.
And what the hell are we talking about? Today we are talking about the Ripon baseball team podcast. So these three fine, esteemed gentlemen, all different what do you actually do here at Drexel?
I work in the flooring department. I'm a flooring sales specialist, outside sales.
Running back over at Drexel Kiel.
And I'm a head coach at Drexel and Campbellsport.
So a variety of different jobs and locations, and but all from the similar path. So episode number 68, famous 68s. Cheers, by the way. Central Water, shout out. Nick is a whiskey guy, and you are drinking what?
I'm just not a beer guy. This is Jack Daniels Tennessee whiskey.
Shout out to Whitty Eagle, who dropped that off for us around the election times. That's his. He owns a bar, the Curve Inn in Kewaskum, and that is his Mount Rush top shelf, Mount Rushmore of whiskey, if I remember right, Marcus?
Yep. Prost, Vinny.
How's it taste?
Got a little water mixed in with it?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
With Vinny, we drank it neat, didn't we? We had no water.
I think Luke did that one, so I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, we didn't have any ice or water. We just drank it warm and neat. Yeah, I had a nice little blushing going when we were there. Okay, well, welcome, guys. Famous 68s?
I'm horrible with that stuff. I was trying to remember my number. I'm bad with
I think I
that.
switched like 3 times.
It's got to be a lineman or something, right?
All right. Yeah, let's get into your career a little bit. Let's go right to the bait.
Yammer Yager.
Oh, there we go, right?
Or Mike Wall?
Yeah. There's somebody that's going to watch this that's screaming Mike Wall. Sorry.
With the
Yager,
thousands
the
of
hockey
thousands.
here. Is that the best all-time hockey here?
Might be.
I mean, that's a large, broad thing to say. I realize that, but
No, it's true, though.
that's got to be top shelf. The ladies that man must have pulled with that haircut. Eh? Unbelievable.
One to the right of that, Marcus. It's more of that style. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
That's after he made a few mil.
Yeah.
The first picture was more like
Yeah.
his rookie year.
Little known fact, maybe in this room, but Joel had a mullet at one point.
Yeah, no, a very, very established
Outstanding mullet.
Outstanding mullet, full spike. And back in high school, if you couldn't, if during class you couldn't put it in your mouth and chew on it, it wasn't long enough. And so it was long enough to do that. And then for basketball, I was a cocky MFer, and I would shave that tight. And then I was left-handed, so I had just one line on the left side. And I was on the cover of the sports section of the West Bend News, and you could vividly see my left line cut. Because that only lasts like 3 days. I was super geeked out.
You were way ahead of the times with that.
I was super geeked out. I'm like, that's the coolest shit.
You have pictures of that still?
I think I do, yeah. I don't have like a flowing lock mullet picture. You know, we didn't take a lot of pictures back then, but yeah, for sure I had the mullet. And then my hair was unique, so it didn't really get longer. I had one of those. I have like when I had hair, it just went out. So I just had this out, spike, tight. It was phenomenal. It was phenom for sure. That was the peak of my life, basically. Honestly. So you guys, speaking about peaks and valleys and all that, so you played for the Ripon baseball team.
Yep.
I kind of want your each personal story. So for those kids out there aspiring to do that, so where'd you play ball in high school? What position?
Houston'sford High School, and I was outfielder, pitcher, first baseman. And then once I got to Ripon, I turned into like the Matt Stairs of our team. I was pretty much a pinch hitter, and I was the stocky guy who just came in to try and hit nukes. Actually, it never even happened, so just go in and take big hacks and see what happens. And but no, I 3 years I played there, and I was looking for a small school. I wanted to play 2 sports in college, football and baseball. Football did not work out, and then Ripon had a very good baseball program, which I think we almost had more guys on the baseball team than the football team when we were there. And really good program, and just a lot of good things. The coach who was there at the time, there was a lot of history with him, his father, Coach Gillespie.
Not from the fishing show.
No, you didn't know that.
No,
definitely not.
No, definitely.
Good history though, and just it was a good program to be a part of, close to home, and yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, played high school at Whalen Academy in Beaver Dam, catcher, occasionally outfield. Actually grew up playing against or with Casey in some of the county leagues or tournaments going on. So, yeah, decided on Ripon, close to home, small school, as Casey said, great program, and just felt right. So.
Yeah, Campbellsport kid, born and raised, 10 minutes from here. So, got to be my senior year, didn't really know what or where or how or whatever. Ripon always had high school like camps, hitting or pitching camps. Went to them. I think it was all 4 years of high school, probably even before that. My mom would drive me over there. So I knew it, and honestly, it was that was the only one that I really knew and kind of sort of had some sort of connection with. Close to home. I'm a homebody, so same thing. I actually planned on commuting my first year. That didn't happen. But, so yeah, in high school, kind of like these guys, small town, you just played everything. Like I would go from pitching to catching to shortstop to whatever. And then in college, I started out as a shortstop, and Coach Gillespie would proudly tell everybody that I ate myself into the catcher's role after my freshman year. So that's where I ended up settled in.
So did you have, how talented were you in high school? How did you end up in Ripon uniquely? I mean, why didn't you go play for Alabama? Why didn't you go play for Oshkosh? Why did you, Stowe? I mean, how did you end up what was your journey to Ripon? How did you find, what college did Ripon? I think for all of you it was somewhat of a local connection, but beyond that, I mean, what was the recruiting path or non-recruiting path, or what did that look like?
Yeah, I actually got more recruited for football than I did for baseball. And then in the summer before I went
What does that mean? You had a letter? People were calling you, texting you?
Yeah, no, this wasn't
showing up at your door, sitting down with Nick Saban?
They didn't hand me any money or anything, which still kind of bummed about, but...
I would have killed it on the NIL deals. If that was a live thing, for sure.
Subway, Chinese food or something, yeah, definitely. No, it was more letters. Luckily, a guy on our team was getting a
handwritten letter comes in the mail. Mom's like, you got a letter from something?
Yeah, I think some were handwritten, some were, you get some schools, Division III, that they just send it out to anyone who will come be a part of it.
Right.
They were recruiting somebody on our team for football, actually, and that was the first time they saw me. And then after that, it was come meet us, check out the school, and I think I more in love my parents had a cottage up towards Berlin, actually, and it was halfway between there. I more fell in love with that, I think, than the athletic side of things. But yeah, the recruiting for baseball just ended up being, they saw me pitch in the summer one time, they're like, well, you're coming to Ripon, were you intending on going out for baseball? And I'm like, well, yeah, I just hadn't really heard from anyone. They're like, well, why don't you come to tryouts and see what happens then? So I ended up liking the baseball team a little bit more, just, I don't know, it was more my sport, and good group of guys there, so.
You're not that big a frame guy. How big were you walking into Ripon?
Well, walking in, I was about 5'8", 180. Walking out, put on a few pounds.
So what position were you in football?
Linebacker.
5'8", 180 linebacker.
Yeah, great 40 time. I mean, it's unreal.
Just had to move.
Yeah, should have been probably.
What was your 40 time?
I'm not gonna lie, I ran 4.9 one time, but that was once, and the timers were some of our teammates at Ripon. We ran it, but I had pulled a hamstring the day we did it. So
Thank God.
Didn't even get yeah. They probably would have said, why don't you just go back to your dorm and we need a manager this year.
You're a gamer.
You're a gamer. That's right.
You're a film speed.
I was quick guy. In between,
the
pylons there.
Yeah. Cone drill guy. 3-cone drill guy.
Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, mine recruiting was kind of unique, in which if I had to do everything over again, I would have taken school a lot more seriously. Junior and senior year, I'd get the stuff in the mail for baseball, or coaches calling me and apply to the school and basically get denied.
So you had a different career. You actually were.
Yeah, I was
fairly gifted.
Yeah.
So if you would have had grades, what would have been the highest level you think, or what would have been a school you maybe would have, like, what was like, man, that's too bad. I had a hard set there.
Great question. Easy answer is Quincy University down in Illinois. It's a D2 school. Went and did a workout with them. Stayed with the team, got to know the coaching staff, and they, put it pretty bluntly, you got your grades up, or, do 2 years at a JUCO school, and that was like 9 hours away, which I wasn't concerned about. But so it took a while for me to start getting accepted. I think that conversation with Quincy University definitely was the kick in the butt I needed. So my senior year, I definitely put a lot more focus on the classes instead of the jokes in the classroom. And, Ripon had been calling me a few times. The head coach now rang me up my junior and senior year, and long story short, about May or April, decided that Ripon was going to be the place once
So
again.
we heard of Woobies. Did you have a good baseball career?
I did. Got to Ripon, partially tore my rotator cuff, so I didn't do any of the fall ball. Learned the downside of going from high school where you're playing, 3 sports a year to only 1, and put on a bunch of weight right before the season started. And, well, basically, Joel, I became the bullpen catcher for the next few years. But, Nick was a year above me, so his sophomore year is when he transferred to that catcher spot, and kind of got to know him and some other guys who were in the position, and just kind of helped me out, and making sure I understood that being a catcher at Ripon at the time was definitely something to cherish.
So you stayed as a catcher,
Yeah.
and you took his spot after.
No. That's for the different podcast. No, I got playing time later on. I think I played a combined 11 innings over a 4-year period. Got my first start my senior year, so but it was cool. I mean, it was a great program.
How did you stay with it? Because to me,
Yeah.
again, if somebody's going to tell me you're going to play 11 innings over 4 years and put the time in,
Yep.
I'd have been like, no, I'm good.
Honestly,
This isn't for the views or anything like that, and hopefully I told these guys this before, but I give both of those two credit because the playing time wasn't there all the time.
No.
There's no way I would have done it. Just too cocky, too arrogant. I would have just been like, nah.
Just other life choices even. So why did you guys do it? Why did you go through the grind?
I mean, honestly, I still played baseball in the summer, but it was for the people and the friends. And I don't know that we'll ever get this, but I think a lot of guys would say that Steve and I were probably 2 of the more fun guys on the team and kept things very loose. And
Well, because, I've been that guy a little bit, maybe not, but I've been maybe around those guys, right? You knew you weren't going to play, so it's like we're going to take a little bit of, I'm going to take that guy's ego down a little bit because it's like not that big a deal. And I know I'm not jacked up because I realize I'm not going to hit the 4-hole tonight, right?
Right.
Was it more like a club then, like a fraternity? Like I want to just be with
that's
these boys?
exactly what it was, honestly.
Right.
Especially our senior year, I know him and I had a lot of conversations. Nick had already left, but even those years before, it does cross your mind. But ultimately, at the time, we were a very good program, ranked, real close group of guys. Team leaders like Nick, making sure that the guys who weren't part of the close-knit group at least had a shot to, and if they were kind of a cancer in the locker room, they're known. But
You just spend so much time together too.
Yep.
Did you ever feel like you let your parents down because you weren't getting playing time, or that you had during or after that? Like if I would have just worked harder, I could have got playing time. Is there some lingering regrets, or even at the time regrets, or some guilt?
For me, I don't think so. And I think for them, it was we're going to support you no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think throughout the years, they became so close to my friends. It was almost like, well, we moved from his high school friends to now his college friends.
Right, and we're just supporting along the way.
Yeah. No, my dad asked me about that, do you ever regret it? And I think he had some guilt for a little bit too, because he kind of, pressed the decision to go to Ripon a little bit on me, but I kept reassuring him, no, I'm still having a great time. Thought about transferring, but it was just kind of one of those sleep on it things. But I think you get to the mentality, at least Casey and I did, especially where, that senior year, you're frustrated that, suddenly the guy who, is a year younger than you is now starting, and maybe that, you're told you're starting one game and lineup's called out and your name's not on there. You just have that mindset, well, let's not do something stupid and ruin something good, and do our part in making sure that we're still competing for the guy's job ahead of us. I kind of feel like the same way here, with my position at Drexel. I'm kind of the catcher, Jared Cephas is, the pitcher. Let's make sure that we're a winning team. So, not to get all, I guess, correct with it, but that's the mindset you had to ingrain, and hopefully that's still the case over there within the program.
Cool. Well, man, I can tell you guys got a lot of pride for it, for sure.
Yeah.
And Nick, your story.
Really weird. I can honestly say I didn't get. It was kind of backwards. I didn't get recruited for baseball anywhere at all. I don't know. Whatever. Really weird now that I actually think of it. Ripon College didn't know that I was coming to play baseball there until I told them that at a camp. I was like, yeah, I'll probably just come here and play ball. And then crews started coming to games and stuff after that. But I had already committed. I actually got recruited harder for football, which was really crazy because I was also 5'10", 170. Was going to play linebacker. Probably. No, slower. Horrible, not fast. But what? Again, small town. You're in the paper a lot, right? Like I think that was just it. And I got all the letters, the same stuff. But yeah, I was at a hitting camp over in Ripon, and I was like, yeah. And the cool thing about them camps is the college players put them on. So I had gotten to know them guys and like talking to them, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, just got talking. They're like, "Where are you going to school?" I'm like, I was kind of thinking about just coming here. Like this kind of seems to work. And I'm like, yeah, you should do it. So yeah, that's literally how I ended up at Ripon, and then enrolled, and away you go.
What life lessons did any of you kind of take away from it? I mean, you kind of shared a little bit of the teamwork and the pride and the camaraderie that you kind of bring to Drexel, but what was instilled in you as a college sport? Hey, let's go back just a step. What's a again, this sounds like a fraternity, but there was a commitment level there. Like, how often did you practice?
For me, the biggest eye-opener was, and it was school and baseball. So baseball is a spring sport, right? You enroll, you go in the fall. The baseball program runs basically year-round. The coaching doesn't start until middle of February type stuff, where the practices start. But we had what we called fall ball, and the seniors set it up, and it was legit games, and we did legit drills, and there was legit work being done. But there was no schedule. There was nobody's calling you and saying, "Hey, get down here," or lighten you up if you don't put in the work or whatever. Mm-hmm. And same thing with class. Like if you didn't show up to class, it wasn't like high school where you got sent to the principal's office and then they call your parents. Like they just didn't.
No. For those people listening or watching, Ripon. If you don't familiar with Ripon, it's it's D3, but it's even a lower level D3. Not in a bad way, just the reality. I think it's a little different at D1 schools. Yeah. I think coaches and a whole bunch of people are up your ass about every little thing, and there's knowing
you had a workout program, you had a nutrition program.
D1 is 5 hours a day, from what I understand, a day, every day. Mm-hmm. And you're getting random emails like, "Hey, here's film from the game yesterday," unsolicited emails. Here's your swing plane. Here's your path. Here's your hip twist. We're off 2 degrees. Like, it's a job, J-O-B, and they have. You're like an asset, right? Mm-hmm. You're a roster spot asset. Different at division. What do you call Ripon? Marcus was at Marion a long time. What do you call? I mean, besides D3, is it like are there divisions within D3, or is it just D3?
No, it's always D3. But obviously in Wisconsin, being around the Oshkosh, the Points, the Whitewaters, you're looked at like schools. A lower level. But like Ripon baseball has always been in the Midwest a tradition kind of program that was always pretty successful. But yeah, in terms of tiers, you would say being a smaller private school that way a little different.
But a D3 championship is Ripon, Oshkosh, that's all lumped into one. If you're a D3 champ, there's no separate divisions. Yep. And Wisconsin, for those that don't know, is a little bit unique because we don't have D2 schools. Right. So a lot of our D3 schools are really high-end D3 because traditionally in a lot of states, I think they would be D2. Is that fair?
Or there's a junior college, or we don't have any JUCOs in Wisconsin either, right?
Well, MATC.
Right.
But you're kind of thrown to the wolves.
In other states, there's a whole bunch of JUCOs or NAIA schools or whatever you want to call it. That is kind of the, that would be our equivalent to a D3.
Right. So just more. That's where those players end up. So yeah, what kind of life lessons did you take away being a
I guess to tie mine out, like at some point, no matter how gifted you are, or no matter what tools you think you have, the world doesn't wait for you to use those. Like you got to use them when you have the opportunity, and if you're going to do something, you got to go. You can only skate along so far by just being good for 99.999% of the world, right? Shaq was going to be an NBA player from the time he was 4 years old. He was just huge, right? But for the vast majority of the world, at some point, you got to put a lot of work into the tools that you have and apply them.
And I think you all had a path, and you all wanted to go down that path, and you followed that. I'll never forget the Stevens Point coach for football was at our school, and coach got me out of math class and said, "Hey, he wants to talk to you." I'm like, "No, I'm good." Like, the coach came down here, he wants to talk to you, Joel. This is how this works. And I'm like, "I'm good," right? So you know, not, again, missing those. And again, Stevens Point football, I was 6'6", 6'1", 170, not uber fast either. Breaking 5 would have been a haul. What am I, the water boy at there, right? Like whipping boy? But anyways, I think it's a good thing. You know, you all at some point went for it, right? And then stayed with it. So there's the stay with it attitude and the going for it attitude. Life ain't going to be handed to you.
It's also kind of scary. You know, I can look at my first semester of my freshman year and, like, I didn't realize it at the time, but there's a lot of, thank God I actually did that at that time. Or, I mean, my athletic career could have been totally different. Who knows, my life could have been totally different, right? Like, I didn't know that fall ball was a thing. Again, there's nobody hunting you down. I roomed with another guy that was on the baseball team, and we just happened to go down to the baseball diamond, and there was guys playing. So if we didn't go down there and figure that out, there's nobody hunting you down like, hey, dude, you missed this.
Yeah,
there's a million reasons like that, right?
I planned walking on an Oshkosh, and again, this is about you guys, but I planned on walking on Oshkosh basketball. You know, I was maybe an opportunity to play at Norbert's, I mean, whatever. And
just assuming that somebody was coming to your dorm and being like...
it was the middle of October. The guy across the hall was on the scout team or something for basketball, and I knew that. So it might have been, again, I had a really good, fun first month, right, partying and whatever. Wasn't real worried about the basketball program. So it started getting, you know, it's mid-October, it's basketball season. Like, hey, when is the actual first practice tryout? He totally laughed. He's like, what? Are you being serious? He's like, first day we got on campus, man. I'm like, well, I guess that dream's done.
That ship's sailed.
And then I literally still thought I was going to go out the next year. Again, sometimes your cockiness, naiveness gets the best of you, right? Like, if you really want to go. And also, I wasn't willing to put my neck out there. And honestly, I don't think I would have put the time in. You know, there's a time sequence to it where you are making sacrifices. I wasn't willing to make sacrifices for something like that. And God bless that you are, because no one comes to your games, right? Like, this isn't about fanhood or being on videos. In a D3 level, you have to love it.
I mean, it was snowing at a lot of our first couple of games. There's like 12 people and your parents in the stands. That's
literally high school had better fans, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. Right. It's your girlfriend's if she's really serious, or she did something
That's
wrong.
when you find out if she is or not.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. That's a good way to say it. Marcus, this is super close to you. For you guys that don't know Marcus that well, really a guy that put his career for a long time before he started here into sports at a D3 college in Marion. What questions do you have for these guys?
I guess I'm just wondering how you guys got here. Was it all connected? Did you guys? Because I know Steve's stories. I worked with him, but in terms of like Nick and Casey, really, you know, bringing it to Drexel, like, how did you guys get here? Did you guys let one another know, like, hey, there's openings here?
Honestly, now that you say that, we're all connected with how it went. I was at a job that I was not happy at, and I talked to Nick on the phone a couple times, and he's like, well, why don't you apply here? He's like, I'll put in a good word for you down in Brookfield, and that was 6.5 years ago.
And you knew a couple people. I mean, you knew Strobel through baseball. And
knew a few folks, but that pulled me out of where I was, and within a month, I think, I was down working in Brookfield, and then Steve called me up one time, and he's like, I see there's a position posted there. Is Nick the head coach there? I'm like, yeah. Well, then Steve forgot to put me down as the person who referred him, so I didn't get that. No, I'm just teasing.
He's over it.
I'm over it. No, I was joking the whole time, but no, then go ahead. Yeah.
So, Nick, you did hire Steve?
Yep.
All right, so that'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, kind of told him right off the bat, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be telling anyone that I know you. And he's like, no, I don't know you either. So I didn't want that added pressure, I guess, on myself or on him to kind of be looking over my shoulder. Not like he's the type of guy that would, but, you know, hadn't seen him in about 9.5 years and just kind of hit out of the ballpark right away when I came and learned more about the job. And, you know, he made it pretty clear that, you know, you're going to work, which I'm very used to, and competitive, and put a lot of pressure on myself to succeed, so it seemed like a good fit.
A funny story that I want you to tell. Nick and I knew each other before he started at Campbellsport Building Supply in open gyms. Here in Campbellsport on Sunday nights, I was probably 23, 24, 25.
Been 04, 05-ish, so how old would you have been?
Yeah, I was 30.
Yeah.
Shit. I was 30. 30, yeah, I was 30 playing against high schoolers, right? Maybe 28.
Yep.
Gosh, dang, couldn't have been 30, but yeah, I must have been.
Yep.
So I was 30. That makes sense. We're like 18 years apart, right? So something like that. So I was 30 playing against high schoolers. on Sunday nights, and it was a very the varsity team playing with a couple almost select varsity guys. Very traditional. It happens around the country. You play Sunday nights in these open gym quasi settings. So kind of explain how you ended up at Campbellsport Building Supply. Or the emotions and all that stuff.
I mean, that story's really funny. If you never have played basketball against Joel, he's talking, he's chirping, always. And he was the guy from Kiel that, my age I didn't know you at that time. At that time, Campbellsport Building Supply, in 2004, how many people worked there?
Yeah, maybe 20.
Right, I knew Tim Lindsley because he went to high school with my dad, but I didn't know what he did or whatever. Now Drexel's got buildings all over the...
And I was the only person from out of town.
Everybody
else was like this interconnected family, friends, coach, right? I'm the only dude that wasn't...
this random dude shows up, and Campbellsport basketball at that time was very, very straight-laced, Hoosier style, right? It was. It just was.
The coach wouldn't let me wear... At 30 years old, I couldn't wear a hat backwards. I couldn't wear my bandana, and he told me not to swear.
Yep. And then Joel would show up with a Kobe jersey on and a headband and launch 28-footers confidently and yell at you for not passing him the ball the next time he was open at 30 feet, which did not sit well, right? And I was a super competitive guy. I can remember having the conversations on the bench of who's wiping Fleischman out next game? I'm sending him 4 rows deep into the bleachers. You know this, right?
And I loved it all, right? The more these young kids would do it, the more I'd be all of it, the heat. And I wanted to, coach. I knew the coach pretty well, and these kids didn't realize it. I was trying to help them. The more I could rile them up, the more I knew it would help them. They didn't know that.
Make it it's a real game in season for them.
It was a game competitive, and you're going to find a kid that's going to be like me, and how do you handle that? In a straight-laced program, you're going to run up against teams that aren't like that.
Yep.
So then how do you react, right? What's that going to look like? So I was pumping them. And I just wanted to win that game, so if they hated me, I was so much the better.
Yeah, so then fast forward, it would have been the summer after my sophomore year of college. Played summer ball with Strobel. It was kind of whatever, getting done with school, I need a job, blah, blah, blah. Strobel told me, Campbellsport Building Supply is opening. At this time, I did not know that Joel was part of that at all.
You just knew him as the Kobe guy in the gym.
Yeah, I literally hadn't thought of him since the time that open gyms ended my senior year. So whatever, started working part-time in the yard in the summer. I was there for a couple of weeks solid, maybe even a month, kind of walking around and working. And then one day I saw him walk past the lunchroom or through the showroom or something, and I grabbed EB at the time, and I'm like, that effing Fleischman guy works here? He's such a jag. Can't believe that. And what the hell? And EB literally looked at me. He's like, you do know that he's your boss and he owns the place, right? I'm like, oh, okay. Thank God I said that to you and not anybody else. I just didn't know at the time.
We said a lot on the podcast, again, just how busy Joel was and different how we were. We were much, much smaller, but I was much more hyper. So I didn't meet part-timers. We didn't have a shoe. If I ran into you, it was like, what do you got going on? Who are you? 3 or 4 times a year. This wasn't this. Our head coaches are much more relaxed than I ever was, which people don't realize, or more than or that I am now. It was a hyper place to work, right? I was only coming in, if I saw you, I was probably chewing your ass out.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Right. Cool. Marcus, keep going. You're good.
Yeah. So,
and Marcus has his own podcast, too. I don't know if we've ever given it a shout-out. So, Marcus, what's your podcast?
Fired Coaches Podcast. It's been a few months since I did an episode, but, yeah.
Was that your last one?
What's that? No, there was a few after that. But, it's all coaches that are fired or resigned at the college level.
So if you like what we do here, check out Marcus on his pods.
Yeah. I guess going back to what Whitty was saying, kind of fall ball freshman year, and just kind of all of a sudden you go on this path, and if you didn't do what you did, where are you at right now? I guess, where did you guys think, as you started school and even going through school, what did you think you were going to end up doing full-time for a career? What did you guys kind of have as aspirations that way?
I actually went to school to be a teacher, and I think right now, my answer now of why I didn't go into it, I don't know if it's the same as what it was why I actually didn't. I worked at a daycare for a few years and was trying to help myself out, get into teaching, and I liked playing dodgeball and throwing fastballs at kids more than I liked teaching. And then I bounced around after that, and I think I would have been a teacher. Honestly, I just I don't know. I'm not sure why. At that point, I didn't want to stick with it, and now my answer, I don't know if it was the same as it was back then, but.
You know, things change in life. It's crazy, right? Your goals change, your mindset change, your personality, and that's totally cool, right? Like, but it's amazing how that actually shifts, right? Like, I write something down, and 6 months later, I'm like, completely irrelevant. I think that's why, you know, short-term mantras at work, short-term, it's like we got to keep revamping, because what we are today isn't what we are tomorrow.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah, I went and majored in communication with the idea of being a broadcaster, radio or TV, and it's a pretty rigorous academic program, and it's like my sophomore year I was kind of getting sick of writing 10-page papers a week. Finally, I asked one of the professors, like, you know, when did the broadcasting classes kind of start, or, you know, and they're like, yeah, we don't do that here. This is more rhetorical theory. I'm like, well, halfway through now, you know, why turn around now? But then felt like I wanted to coach in the future, and so when I was, you know, doing a lot of time on the bench or in the bullpen, instead of just kind of sitting there with a scowl on, just towards my senior year, just kind of spent more time picking the coaching staff's brain during practices, or, you know, just kind of when you're sitting there for 2 hours catching bullpen sets, you know, instead of just being grumpy about it, just sitting there and actually coaching guys. So went into coaching after I graduated.
Are you still coaching?
No. I went and coached at Lakeland University for about 3 years. Just really got burnt out, because you go from being a player at Ripon, and then complete opposite of the spectrum at the time was Lakeland. So
and not so far just the success of the program, right?
Correct.
In that way.
Correct. I mean, Lakeland, to this day, I believe, is still the smallest school to ever go to the D3 World Series, you know, in 2002, and I think that class is getting recognized this year. But, I mean, out of a 40-game season, which is a typical D3 regular season, if we won 12 to 15 games at Lakeland at the time, that was seen as, you know, a step in the right direction, which, you know, would not have been under Bob Gillespie's Ripon College.
I will say, like, just touching on that, being a D3 player maybe wasn't what, like, oh, you played college baseball. Like, that's not what the rest of the world thinks. Being a D3 coach, you're doing that because you love it on a whole nother level. Like, these guys aren't driving around in Beamers. They may or may not even have an office. Like, you're also a teacher. Like, you're taking care of the field yourself. Yep. Like, that, it's not what a lot of people picture. I'm a college baseball coach.
No. I did
it's a labor of love.
Oh God, you do it literally because you love the sport or you love the kids that much.
Yeah. I had my first or second year at Lakeland. I would do the scoreboard during the men's and women's basketball game. Typically get done about 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, well, sit at my cubicle for about 2 more hours, because if we got a recruit in Hawaii that I'm going to call, and it's just, you know, next thing you know, you're back the next day at 5 a.m. because you're opening up the weight room in the gym for guys to get their sets and listen. It's just, it is a grind. It is a grind.
Is there anything you guys know or remember from Coach Gillespie in terms of, like, which I know we could have a 3-hour podcast on that, but in terms of the things that he taught you, or things you guys learned in that program that either you recognize now at Drexel, or even you use in your day-to-day if it doesn't really, you know, tie in with Drexel?
I just thought of this, but kind of like how we do the ready, fire, aim approach. You know, in baseball, teams like to play small ball, bunt little, move guys around. He didn't do that. He was like, oh, we're playing big baseball innings. Well, coach, we're down 1. We just need to score. No. We're swinging.
Hit an effing home run, yeah. He would say. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was his approach, and it worked. We're like all the time.
And that was the opposite of culture D3 baseball at the time. Was it a small ball culture in 2010?
Well, so maybe that's the difference between high school and college baseball. Like, there was a lot more thought that went into it. Like, he knew we had big inning baseball and then we had small ball. He knew before the game started, had his mind made up. It was a lot based on weather. We're playing in the spring, right? If it's cold, wind's blowing in, there's any sort of weather, we're going to have to play small ball today. But if the wind was blowing out and it was bluebird skies, like, we're not bunting, we're not trying to manufacture runs, we're going for doubles, we're not trying to steal bases because we're not getting guys thrown out on the base paths. Like, he knew that the second we got to the park.
So you'd shift by game, your total style, which again in high school or
but then everybody knew.
That's your style.
Right? Then everybody knew. There wasn't a lot of signs. You know, we didn't have a lot of signs from the third base coach. It's not like what this stuff.
So it's more intuitive.
Yep, you knew what was happening the second you got to the park. This is what we're doing, little huddle, and then
so it was like
the
set
game
the
kind of
vision,
went from there.
again, business-wise, set the vision, let you guys play, not micromanage you. Hey, this situation, and no analytics.
No, none.
None.
I think he would have struggled.
He's
just very old school. Like, get on. If you're on third base, regardless of where the ball's hit, your ass better be, sliding across home plate or scoring.
I caught for 3 years. I never had a sign told to me from the dugout. It was my game to call. If he didn't like a pitch that I called, we talked about it in between innings. I don't think he ever went out for a mound visit, like mid-inning. It was just so different. You knew what was expected of you. If a pitcher was having a bad day or whatever or got in some trouble, he either came out or he let him figure it out. Like, there was none of the wishy-washy, I'm going to over micromanage this thing and try and handle it. Like, when the games came, it was roll the ball out there and let them play. You're either going to win or you're going to lose.
Did you guys appreciate that, or do you wish you had more coaching?
As an adult now, I appreciate it. When I was in college, 18, 22-year-old, you're seeing the other team show up and taking batting practice on your field. Joel, we didn't do batting practice like you see at a game. We all lined up on the warning track and hit wiffle balls.
Yeah.
Until he said so. We didn't even have walk-up music. He wouldn't allow it. Nobody chirped in the dugout because that was disrespectful. Nobody speaks to the umpire except for him. But he made it clear everyone supports everyone on this team. If a pitcher, had a bad game or a bad inning and they get pulled mid-inning, if he saw anyone, including the student trainers, not standing up and going to meet the
whole dugout would come out and clap him off.
He was very strict on routine and.
You said it the other day. Long on standards and what's the short on? Long on standards, short on. That was Bob.
Yeah.
He'd get excited once in a while in the dugout and maybe let an umpire have it, but it was like very, 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 very rarely did that happen. And then he would make it known in between innings, and the entire dugout would know, I'm going to apologize to the ump right now, because that's not.
It's almost like the New York Yankees. Like, that's what we always felt like.
That's what he would say too.
Facial hair, no crazy weird hair. Like.
Yep.
You're kind of, Whitty, you're talking about like the praise and the criticism, like big on the praise, like out loud, and then kind of criticism, small, like.
Yeah, he was a frail little old man. Loved Bob. I would have run through a brick wall for Bob. Love him to death. In practice, he would could light you up like a Christmas tree and make you feel this big. But then it was 3 times as much in front of everybody. He'd build you back up. Never in a game. Never, ever, ever in a game.
So he let the game be the crown jewel. He let that be its own experience.
Yep.
So everything was done behind the scenes. Bill Belichick, right, is kind of known for that. Everything's done behind the scenes. All criticism's done behind the scenes. Even big praise. It's
kind of like he was more John Wooden, right? Wooden would never call a timeout in a game. What am I going to call a timeout? You know what you have to do.
Right.
Yeah. Bob would do the same thing.
Yeah. Right.
You're going to do what you.
John Wooden was crazy. People think John Wooden was really old school. So he full court press man to man when that was literally not a thing.
Nobody did that. Yep.
Nobody did that. So he did some unique things as well. So I do think there's, I'm guessing you like Coach because he was so authentic.
Oh,
he had the credibility too. Yeah. It wasn't just some guy with the record of, 14 and 587.
Is that what it was? Like, what were your guys' records?
We won conference my freshman and senior year, and then we were very close. Yeah.
I mean, if anyone ever commented like, "Hey, Coach saw that we're ranked," he'd cut them down like rankings don't mean shit.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, as Nick said, he was really good at definitely making you feel this small, but the moment where he did compliment you, whether it was in practice or just doing something simple like, hey, thanks for running down and getting one of the pitchers warmed up, kind of made you feel 2 or 3 feet more taller, which, like I said, as an adult now I appreciate a lot more.
The standards were high though, like you said. I remember when I first met him, he's like, we don't play to get to the conference championship like everyone else. We play to get to the College World Series. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't care about the college. Yeah, it's cool if you want it. I want the World Series. Yep. And that was the first thing he ever said to me. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Did he ever make it?
Not in my 4 years. So D3 College World Series is played in Appleton, which is kind of crazy.
To this day?
It's now in Iowa now.
It was,
when I was in school, it was played at Timber Rattler Stadium. We never made it out anywhere close to out of regionals. Actually, I'm sorry, my freshman year, we were a game away from going to the College World Series. We were an out away, had a 3-run lead, and whatever, blew it against Point.
Did Coach make it?
I don't think Coach ever. I don't think he ever made it to Appleton. No.
Interesting.
Yep.
But
Super
you keep
cool
that
guy.
standards there, right? Like that's where we're gonna go.
Yep.
Super cool.
Well,
Marcus?
his dad was Coach Gillespie at the time, was the all-time winningest baseball coach in college.
Rudy in high school football.
The real Rudy.
Yeah.
So a legendary coaching family.
Yeah.
I think he was on ESPN. He passed away a few years ago, and they had he was like highly, I don't know, like known across the country for all divisions.
Julius Catholic, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So super cool story. Bob's obviously Gordy's kid. Gordy was still coaching when I was in college. We went down to Joliet Catholic.
Which is where?
In Illinois.
Illinois.
Yep, Joliet, Illinois.
St. Francis.
Yep, we played them. Right, St. Francis? Yeah, sorry. Played them. It was the same signs.
Yeah.
Like Bob had the same plays as Gordy did.
We had 2 teams doing wiffle balls.
Yep. And they both confidently, Bob said, we're not changing anything. We know what Gordy's going to do. Gordy knows what we're going to do. We're not changing anything. It was crazy.
Cool. Let the boys play.
Yep, let the boys play. Yep.
And Bob's kid, Scott, is now coaching at
Illinois State.
Yeah. Scotty was in your guys' class, right?
Wow.
Scotty was in.
Yep.
Wow. Amazing.
Crazy
Just got into the
athletics
Ripon Hall
family.
of Fame.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, no, nothing else. About 45 minutes in, went to the billboard.
Hey, that one's so quick. They were so, for everybody listening, they were so sure this was going to be partying and whose beer bong's this. And
Just
where did Wubby end up in sleeping one night? Like, they were so sure this was going to be off the tracks. Marcus and I kept it on. I'm proud of you, Marcus. I'm proud of myself. We kept it right on track. Wubby, you can take it over for a minute.
I just want to tell you how Whitty and I first met. And
I don't want you to.
Is this going on your billboard?
we had a philosophy class together. Philosophy 101. I'm a freshman. And the first day of class, they gave us an assignment. I didn't know any of these baseball guys. There was a group of them. And I didn't talk to them because I was scared of them. First day of class, yeah, go read this couple chapters here out of this book. Next day we come back, and I don't know what, maybe we were partying, whatever, didn't read the first chapter or whatever it was.
Can confirm.
And the professor picks me first to answer the question. And had I just read, what he asked was in like the first 3 sentences. And I'm like, I'm going to be honest, I didn't read. And I hear Whitty laughing, and he just knew me from, we had never talked, whatever, baseball, and this is the first week of school, and Whitty starts giggling at me. The professor asks, well, Mr. Whitty, you think it's so funny? Why don't you answer the question? He's like, I didn't read either. So just like that, he kicked us out of class, and we proceeded to go eat like 3 breakfast sandwiches together.
Oh, yep.
And ever since then, we've been pretty close buddies.
That's awesome. That's great. I don't know why I feel like I need to tell this story. I shouldn't talk so much in my own podcast. But I had a thing with one of my best friends, Matt Schrader. We had English classes, and we had a lot of reading to do, maybe 150 pages a night. And I had a shtick with him. This professor would call me that I wasn't particularly fond on, and he would just call me when I'd be half sleeping. So I would never even hear the question, and then I would confidently answer it. Right. So it was a Shakespeare class, and it was, I'd be hung over in the back like this. And he'd be like, "Hey, you back there? What do you think?" And I would just go, "Macbeth absolutely knew she was stealing the pie." And it would just be like that bizarre, like I had no clue what his question was, just to get my buddy completely fucking giggling and laughing. And he'd say, "Well, no, that's not it at all." I'd go, "Yeah, well, that's what you sure?"
Swing and miss.
Yeah, and I'd just give him old stays, and my buddy would just be like laughing. So anyway, I don't know why I felt like I had to say that story. Let's get to the billboards. So thanks for sharing that story. Let's get to the billboards. Who wants to go first?
I'm going to steal mine from the first podcast because it applies even better. Pun intended. Black background, white letters, swing hard in case you hit it. It's my billboard.
I think you live your life that way.
Gosh, I thought you said Casey, like you. I was like, oh.
And then it says Ripon Baseball on the bottom?
Nope.
Or red Ripon Baseball?
Nope.
Any before we get to the next billboard, that's fantastic. Any Any Ripon gear, baseball left in your closets?
I have my catcher's mitt. My wife and I were just talking about this the other day.
No hoodie, no hat?
Nothing. Played baseball
Really?
since I was 5, literally. I'm reduced down to I have my catcher's mitt and there's a ball in it in my closet to keep it from peeping from. None.
No Campbellsport Cougars gear either?
My mom still has my letter jacket hanging.
You're not
at her house.
You're not a saver, or just didn't happen, or
I don't know. Like, yeah, I just don't.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think. We got some really nice.
Towards the end there.
Yeah, we got some
budget must have increased.
I don't have as much as I used to, but yeah, I got 3 or 4 items that I'm still rocking to this day.
Oh, rocking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go out dinner, bar. I got a nice fleece zip up I wear still all the time.
Oh, that's fine.
No, like, do you have a baseball? Does anybody got like the Ripon baseball 12-year-old hat? No?
I do.
It was disgusting.
But baseball guys just go through hats, right? You just can't even bring it back to life if you want.
I never even really. I did have a hat, but mine just got beat up so bad because
that's what I mean. Catching
it was just in my bag all the time. Like,
same.
I never.
It wasn't like somebody wore out.
No. In college, yeah, but after that, like, that kind of quickly
just like it stinks and whatever. Steve, you?
Yeah, I think I've got one shirt from like our freshman year, and then dry fit long sleeve from our senior year. Because when I went and coached, I kind of gave most of it.
That's the other thing that, like, the Ripon College baseball athletic, like, your clothing order, it was like the Drexel one. Mm-hmm. Hey, here's this really cool hoodie. If you want it, it's $45. Right. Like, they don't just show up in your room with, here's your apparel.
Right, so you guys weren't going out and you're like, I got enough Ripon baseball shit, I don't need any more. Yeah. You weren't chasing the gear.
No.
Right. No free swag in the lockers automatically.
No.
It's a different world. So, Steve, what's yours?
Keep the spirit. The journey's just begun.
Want to take it a little deeper?
Sure. I mean, you think you know everything when you graduate high school, ready to take the world on. All of a sudden you get to, a college or a job, and so you're definitely humbled. I'll put in perspective. I thought I knew everything at 25. Thought I knew the job I wanted to do. Next thing you know, I'm in a completely different path. Suddenly I'm working for Drexel. I don't know the difference between a 2x4 or 2x6. But I'll take it head on. Now I'm a father. A lot of my priorities are what they were a year ago are not there. I'm more focused on, leaving work at work and being the best dad I can. But just ultimately keeping the same enthusiasm each day, trying to bring smiles to faces.
Yeah, the journey is the reward, right?
Yep.
I mean, my one that I'm on, which is so similar right now that I'm really stuck on the last few days, the day you stop racing is the day you win the race.
There you go. Yeah.
Bob Marley, of all people, which is even a cooler quote. So,
Bob Marley.
Yeah, you got to love Bob Marley, but like I didn't know he was an athlete even in that regard, even as a race, right? But yeah, really, that's a great one. So thank you. Both sports related so far, so we'll see if we go 3 for 3.
I was just thinking for a couple guys that didn't get to play as much as they wanted to, but stuck it out and kept battling and just being a part of the team. I was gonna say, keep fighting, keep having fun, because I think that was what kept me going through. Not just sports. There's a lot of things that can apply to in my life, and I'm sure a lot of others. But
yeah, I mean, you have a hell of a journey in flooring, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we fired 75% of the staff in the last 12 months, right? I mean, it's been a hell of a journey.
And there's days where you lose perspective on that, and you get beat down and want to, I don't know, yell, be crabby, go off on people, and you just got to keep perspective that, put in the time and be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and keep fighting, keep having fun. Keep fighting, keep having fun, right? I mean, I think if I got a tattoo, people have asked me that, right? And I think I always go back to fall 7, rise 8. It is.
Would you spell it out, or would you do the down arrow? 7,
yeah, the down. I do the V11 down, V111 up. Yep. Probably right here. Even that seems like it's going to hurt really bad, but right here. Fall 7, rise 8. I think I've told that podcast. I coach basketball kids, little munchkins, and we do fall 7, rise 8 3 times after we break every huddle. I don't care if you fall down, just get up. That's all that matters. Just get up. Keep fighting, keep having fun, right? And if you just can't have fun, at least get up. Because I think sometimes in life the having fun stuff doesn't always happen every given day, and then you get more frustrated because the day I didn't have fun. Just talked to somebody about that today. Sam Floyd, shout out to Sam. Joy is so much greater than happiness too. We chase happiness in life, but that brings us no joy because we can never be happy on this planet. But can you be joyful overall? Yeah, this was fun. This was joyful, right? This was great. It was a great experience. But so thanks for coming on, guys. You guys were incredible. I don't even know the mascot. Go Tigers.
Hawks.
Hawks.
Red Hawks.
Hawks win.
I am on my way to the Ripon Tigers, Kewaskum Indians. My daughter plays JV. She's going to play the Ripon Tigers tonight. Go Hawks.
Hawks win.
Hawks win.
That's awesome.